All right, so it's been a pretty packed weekend in sports in general. Obviously, you're a Mets fan. Jacob deGrom signed with the Texas Rangers. Figure we'll start with that. That was pretty bad, wasn't it?
Jeez,
I mean,
man, there really is a lot to talk about.
well, before we get into MMA, let me ask you this because my whole thing, I truly did not believe that he was ever coming back. Did you?
Yeah, I mean, you could call it false hope or whatever, but you want to believe that you're gonna shell out top money for your guy, but I'm sure they would have still done that. It's just he didn't want to
Yeah,
come back.
I don't even think he gave him a final offer chance, which is that's rough. But we'll see where Aaron Judge goes to see if. Well, I'm wearing an A's jersey, but we'll see if the Yankees are going to be.
Well, now the Mets have Aaron Judge money instead of Jacob deGrom money, so
I don't know. Apparently,
it'll be
according to
going
reports, though, it might be Justin Verlander money or Carlos
Yeah,
Rodon
you know
money.
what? Yeah, in all seriousness, that work. Either of them work too. But now I'm just afraid that just because they can, they're gonna overpay for somebody. Feeling pressured now that the best pitcher in the game is gone. You obviously still have all this money to spend. You had such a good off season last year. I think it's coming. I think it's coming. Not, I don't want to say egregious, but I don't know. No one's really going
You
to be
think they're
able
going to
to
give
fill those
Brandon
shoes.
Belt 10 years, $300 million? But,
It's got to be for a pitcher at least. Just
Yeah.
make it for a pitcher, please.
I think it probably will be, but it's the MLB off season, NBA season, NFL season, but most importantly, it's fucking fight season. And
Yes,
let's get into some fights. And before we get into the UFC and everything that happened over the weekend with them, I think we got to talk a little bit about boxing because Tyson Fury had a cool title fight with Derek Chisora, fellow British fighter. And I'm pretty sure it was in Wembley Stadium. I kind of didn't even realize it was happening until the day of.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna mention too, which is I think we've already talked about it before, but screw it, we can use this as a talking point too to talk even more about it. Why are we finding out the day of that the heavyweight champion of the world is fighting?
Because Dana White is right and Bob Arum is not good at promoting. He's just, I don't understand.
Exactly.
Tyson Fury, I get that he promotes himself and this isn't the biggest fight of his career because he's already beaten Chisora twice coming into this, but to not give Top Rank just gives no effort in promoting their fights. You find out the day before. You got to be following ESPN ringside in order to get any updates on Top Rank. Besides, I just don't like it. That's why I was about to mention Terrence Crawford, but he's having a fight this weekend that nobody knows is happening. But dude, boxing's wild business model. But anyway, I don't want to take away from the fight. Even though Top Rank stinks. But Tyson Fury dominated Derek Chisora, just bad, dude. It was a brutal beatdown, from round 1 to round 10 when the ref stepped in. Chisora just could not close the distance with Tyson Fury, and I mean that's obviously easier said than done. I mean the guy's 6'9", so and his technique is just incredible. He's a great counter puncher, but it seemed like Chisora's method was to try and swing in with body shots and or overhand rights. He did land a few, but Fury's just he's tough as nails, man.
So hard. I mean, it's just so hard to hit too.
That's true. I mean, even when you do hit him, you look at Wilder in their first fight in the 12th round when he hit him, and that fight should have been over, and Tyson just got up just out of nowhere. He looked like he was done too. It was 6, 7, 8, and he's all right, let's go. Let's do it. And he won the rest of that round, which is crazy. I still don't think that fight deserved to be a draw. I think he beat Wilder that time too. But back to this fight, though. I mean, Chisora was landing some good overhand rights to Fury's jaw, but Fury's just a tough son of a bitch, man. I don't really know any other way to put it, but when he wasn't landing those overhands, because they were rare, but when he wasn't landing them, he was just kind of blitzing in and getting hit with combinations, uppercuts, jabs, all this stuff, and just, I don't know, Chisora didn't seem to have an answer for Tyson Fury from the jump, and I think the conversation honestly probably goes more to what we think his next fight should be. I'm curious to see, do you think that it's got to be Fury versus Usyk at this point, right?
Oh, I mean, dude, who else is there really for him at this point?
He did say Joe Joyce if Usyk is scared. That's what he said. Because, like, I don't know if you saw it, but it was hilarious. I don't know what they were thinking with this one, but
see, now it's like now it's more on Usyk than it is, anybody else, I guess.
I think Fury wants it. I don't see why. Like, he just doesn't seem like he's the type who's trying to duck this fight, and not that Usyk really is either. It was funny though, because I don't know what they were trying to do, because Usyk got like up by the ring, and they were in each other's faces, and Fury just had the microphone. It was pretty much just a roast session, because like Usyk wasn't saying shit back. He was just staring at him like this, because he's a scary looking dude. Like you know what Usyk looks like, correct? He's got like the creepy handlebar, like cold blue eyes, man. Like,
yeah, and Tyson Fury's a nice looking guy.
And Tyson Fury's just shitting on him though too. He's like, "You little man," like I'm calling him all these names and shit. I love it, man. Tyson Fury is so fun to listen to, but that's the fight.
Yeah,
like,
dude.
Fury versus Joe Joyce is like something that could happen. Like, it'll be an interesting fight, but we want to see these titles unified. Like, we talk about it all the time in boxing, how they just seems like nobody's really ducking each other. It's like the promoters are ducking the fights. And, you were just talking about Top Rank before. I hope Bob Arum wants to get this fight done, because, if he's so disinterested in promoting this one, maybe he'll be interested in promoting like a title unification bout between like two of the best heavyweights on this planet.
Please.
So I don't know. He goes, I like when Fury says to him, he's talking about how Usyk beat Joshua. He's like, you beat a bodybuilder, but I ain't a bodybuilder. He says he's gonna retire him. I love it, but I don't know, man. We'll see what happens with that. With boxing, it's kind of like reading like Conor McGregor headlines. You can't really like put any stock into it until it's official.
Yeah.
And even when it is official, half the time it's not for some reason. But anyway, Tyson Fury, just great performance by him. And with that, I think we can get into like UFC Orlando, because there was a lot to talk about for this one. You said it. I mean, these are the cards that the UFC is putting effort into nowadays with the fight nights, and man, did it live up to the hype. Because the whole main card was exciting. The prelims were pretty good. We'll talk about a few of those. Some in depth, some just kind of glossing over it a little bit maybe. Just because like there was just so much to get to. I don't even know. Like, we'd probably be sitting here for like 2 hours if we talked about every fight. But I guess we could go with the main event from the jump. Some people are saying fight of the year. I don't know if it's fight of the year per se, but it's definitely up there.
Yeah.
It was a fun one. A little one-sided for me to like call it fight of the year though, because I don't know. I mean, round one, Holland started off pretty good, and you could argue whether the thing that ended up coming out is what led to the rest of the fight. I don't really think that it was, but Kevin Holland did break his hand in round one in like 3 different places, so his right hand was like ineffective after the first. But I don't even think that was the problem, because
me neither. Because it seemed like he was looking to strike the whole way through.
Yeah, well, he had some success with it in round one. Like, he was managing his range pretty well, but besides and he does have power, man. Like, Kevin Holland has just like legit one-shot knockout power, but Wonderboy's a tough dude. We've seen him hurt before and come back, but after it seemed like Holland broke his hand, it was just a different fight. And I don't think it was because of that. Like, I don't think that he was particularly like affected in the sense that because Wonderboy, like, it wasn't really that Holland wasn't landing like the right hand. It was more that Wonderboy was just like outstriking him. He was just blitzing in more. His counter shots were amazing. His kicks from southpaw throughout the fight were amazing, and just everywhere on the body. But like, it seemed like after the broken hand, Holland just didn't want to like. He didn't seem like he was engaging in like the same way. Like, he was still pressuring him, but like he wasn't landing as effectively, and he seemed like he was a little bit more gun shy with the right hand, I guess. And when you're getting like just battered to the liver and to the head by just one of the best kickboxers in the sport, it is a little hard. I will say that.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I mean, I want to give Holland respect though, because he wanted to strike with Wonderboy, and that really put on a show for us. And he didn't really have to do that because he could have tried to out-grapple him. But What did you
Very
think
true.
of this fight in its entirety, honestly?
I pretty much just summed it up. I think the same thing I was doing. I think it's really easy to say like Kevin Holland like because that's where I thought this was going, and that's I felt Kevin Holland was just gonna have the wrestling and the strength advantage, and then just use that mostly to his advantage. But yeah, I mean you can't really like I don't know, no one's gonna get mad at Kevin Holland for like wanting to put on a show, and then like
Except Michael Bisping.
yeah.
Bisping shit on him a little bit for it. He said his ego lost in the fight.
Yeah.
And Kevin Holland was like, sure.
Well, it makes sense. That, as a former fighter and everything, like that's just the pride factor and all that. So like I get it, but us as fans, like you gotta give it up, especially after like like now that we know he's fighting with a broken hand the rest of the way, like
And he's still striking with him, too.
Yeah, so like maybe that does alter the game plan, because who knows where the rest how the rest of the fight plays out if that doesn't happen. But yeah, I mean, if you ever had any doubt that Wonderboy still had it, and he's still here.
Yeah,
but
you could argue this is his best performance of his career, up there at least.
I think he needed it for sure. And as for Kevin Holland, like I really hope it's not it for him, because
seems like he's in a weird spot, ain't he? Like not even just matchmaking wise, but even like his thoughts on the
I don't
company.
know. Like I was having some thoughts like maybe a move back to middleweight, but I think he's found himself, I guess, at welterweight. It's just we're just not really seeing that wrestling come out all that much yet. And I guess that's what the whole move to welterweight was, so that he could maximize. But I mean,
he just picked a striking battle with the best striker in the division.
Yeah.
So like that's a little tough. I still feel like he could have, because he had like a couple advantageous like positions, and he just kind of gave them up because he wanted to strike.
Yeah.
But I don't know. Like it seems like he's in a weird spot. He seems very bitter about like how the whole Hamzat thing was handled, and how the UFC kind of favoritizes certain people.
That's right. Oh my god. See, like it's bad that I even forgot that happened. It's like because I want to forget that happened, because I don't think it was a good look at all. And like what he's saying, he's right too. Like I agree with him 100%.
Yeah, I respect him too, because he says like I'm a company man. I'm gonna do what they want me to do if they're gonna pay me for it. But like it's I don't know, like. I agree with him when he said, well, you can go first.
Well, yeah, no, but and the thing about that is like we're all fans of Kevin Holland. Like we want to see him actually trailblaze to the top. You know what I'm saying? But I guess like if you want to compare it to like Michael Chandler, just out there like let's put on a war. Let's give these people what they came to see. Like that's dope, but like then the time like we're fans of the fighters themselves. We want to see them be successful. We want to see them at the end of the day, like not rack up a bunch of these losses, and the next thing like I know like not that we're gonna cut anything. There's a bunch of guys in the UFC right now with like on these loss streaks that are still around because people love them. But
exactly.
It's
gonna be hard to cut guys like Tony Ferguson and stuff like that, even though they're on like a 5-fight losing streak.
Exactly.
It's just it's a weird spot, because like I understand like him being bitter, and especially too like he was saying, he's like if they give Chimaev the title shot after what just happened, like that's crazy. Like that's not fair. And I agree with that. Like he's trying, and we were talking about it I think a couple weeks ago too, when Chimaev like originally called. He's like, yeah, dude, sign the contract. And we're like, what contract? Like, dude just fought. Like they didn't give him a contract to sign. So I still don't. Me even personally, I'm still bitter about what he did like fight week to Nate Diaz and stuff, just coming in like 7 or 8 pounds overweight, and then getting a fight with Holland and just destroying him. And it was a bad matchup. Like, and I get that Holland wanted the fight because he wanted to get his versus Chimaev, but I don't know, man. That whole situation was just really handled poorly, if you ask me.
Mm-hmm.
And it seems like Kevin Holland is starting to like open his eyes to the like some of the favoritism in the company. Like he even mentioned how Bo Nickel and Raul Rosas, the 17-year-old fighter from Contender Series, like they got put in the game, and like they haven't even had their debuts yet. Like it's just who the promotion wants to push at the end of the day. And we've talked about this a bunch. And it'll always probably be that way. It's a business, you know, at the end of it. But it's tough to see that because, like you said, like we like Kevin Holland, so you don't want him to be feeling like crappy towards the company. But we'll see what happens with him there. And Wonderboy, he's in a weird spot too because you want to kind of give him more strikers because he's not going to beat, I think, some of these top wrestlers. Like maybe Colby, because Colby's like striking is like that amateur compared to Wonderboy's, but his wrestling is so much better. I just don't know. Like one fight that I had in mind was maybe Wonderboy versus Michel Pereira, because that'd be a fun one too. I feel like it'd be a lot like this one actually, but I don't know because Wonderboy, like he said, like he wants to get back to the title shot, but he's like, don't give me grapplers. I'm like, well, if you don't want grapplers, you should go back to kickboxing. Think about it. But I get what he's saying. You know, if you want fun fights, give him another striker, not a guy who's gonna just, you know, take him down and hump him. But it's just, I don't know where he's really gonna go from here. I don't know like who you give him besides someone who's ranked below him, because a lot of the guys who are ranked above him are wrestlers for that matter. Let me see, because above him it's Burns, who he's already fought. Bilal Muhammad, he's already fought. God, I do not want to see him fight Hamzat. Him versus Colby is a little bit interesting to me, but I still think Colby wins, and then Usman would beat Thompson. The only one that's really interesting to me that's above him, which is kind of funny, is the champ. Like, I think him and Leon Edwards would be an interesting fight. But he has to get there. Like, you don't get a title fight from beating a guy who's not ranked, unless you're like Conor McGregor or something like that. But I don't know.
Well, I think it would take one win over any of those guys you just named above him.
It's a tough sell.
Honestly, get there. If Leon Edwards still champion.
What about Masvidal? He's below him, but he's enough of a draw that I feel like you could put it in like a co-main and say it's a title eliminator for Wonderboy. It shouldn't be for Masvidal.
No, yeah.
But I don't know. Like the welterweight division always seems like to be in like a weird spot nowadays. But I don't know. I mean, we'll see what happens with it. This is still Ben Askren's undoing of the division, dude. Hey man, Ben Askren made a lot of people famous. A lot.
Seriously.
Of people famous. He needs more respect. Hey, maybe imagine Wonderboy versus Ben Askren, how that would have been.
Oh, man.
That might be like the truest form of striker versus grappler in MMA. But
yeah.
I don't know. We'll see where both of these guys' careers go from here. But a great win by Wonderboy, man. Like, he really put on just a show in this one. And, you know, fight of the year, I'm not sure. But definitely one of the better ones that I've seen, that's for sure. This UFC event was really fun, and Orlando brought the energy. But then the co-main event, RDA, dude, just rear naked choke over Barberena. That was to kind of be expected, I should say. But I didn't really even want to focus on the fight as much. It was more the call-out, because we've kind of talked about RDA in the past, and we like giving him his respect on this show because he's earned it, man. Like, he has one of the craziest resumes in UFC history.
Even this one now, Brian Barberena, like just another OG of the sport. Like,
dude,
awesome.
Barberena's got some names on there at this point too. Might not all be wins, but he's fought some killers. But he deserves some respect too. He says he's on his Legends tour. Barberena, he wants to fight all Legends.
That's really cool.
I'm here for it, man. His fight with Robbie Lawler was fun too. That was like a weird one that kind of like slid under the radar, didn't it?
Yeah, and we had the whole dissension between it. I mean, you won, but still, at least it was a good fight.
It was fun.
My guy Robbie Lawler.
It was a fun one. He's fighting soon though. We'll get into that a little later. But back to RDA, he called out Conor McGregor. He wants to reignite that rivalry, and I'm just curious of what you think of that.
I'm for it. I'm definitely for it, but I don't think Conor McGregor is gonna be for it. I think he would definitely see RDA as a threat.
RDA is a tough fight for anybody, and I say that to like, well, maybe not 170 as much anymore because Leon Edwards did kind of have his way with him, but at 155 still, like, I know this fight wasn't there. He's still dangerous there. It sucks that he's kind of like just given up on like the title stuff. And I get it, like, he just wants fun fights. He feels like he's already established his legacy. But he's still so good, man. But yeah, I get it. I really do get it. He wants the payday, dude. Like, and I don't blame him. He wants red panty night from Conor McGregor, and it's a fight that I'm here for. I agree with you. I think it'd be a fun one. It'd be a fun build up because those two definitely don't like each other. I told you too, like when I was in Vegas for 264.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Dude, there was not a happier person in the building than RDA when Conor McGregor lost that fight, and he was just sitting there on the canvas, and because it was just ironic, like because Conor McGregor always says to RDA, you know, you pulled out of the fight with like a little foot injury, but like RDA broke his foot, like. Like, you know, we know what McGregor was saying when he fought Khabib, you know, my foot was a balloon. But, I don't know. I think a broken foot is a valid reason to not want to participate in a world title fight.
Yeah.
But, you know, now I think he probably thought it was ironic that McGregor broke his leg in that fight. I'm sure he wasn't, you know, happy about it because that's just messed up. But I'm sure he thought it was pretty ironic. And he was pretty happy to greet some fans after that one, including myself. Well, nice guy, RDA, I will say that. Very nice guy. Always rooting for him on this channel, at least me. But anyway, there was just so many, like, I don't even know where to, like, go from there because there's so many fights on this card that, like, I want to talk about. And there's, you know, Niccolau versus Matt Schnell, who cut his hair completely, like, just shaved his head to make weight, which I thought was pretty cool. It's a sign of dedication right there. Might have to show some more discipline next camp, maybe, so he doesn't have to do that next time. And it sucks too because he shaved his head and lost. Actually, hold on. Before we go on with this fight, I want to talk about something with the main event again that I completely glossed over that I should. Hold on. Now we have to go back to our first conversation.
Oh, Jesus.
You ready for this? All right. 3-time Cy Young Award winner Justin Verlander agrees to contract with the Mets. Oh my!
Sure, nice.
They got him. Nice. Congratulations, you guys got Verlander. Oh my God, that's crazy. We were just talking about it.
Yeah.
That's good. Good for you, man.
That's an adequate DeGrom replacement.
I don't see anything about the contract yet. You know, there might be reports about it, but we are an MMA show. I just wanted to talk about that real quick because I saw it. But back to what I was gonna say with the main event. Kevin Holland, dude, his hair, why were they not talking about his hair? Was I the only guy who saw that? Did I just imagine it?
No, like, I was kind of wondering too.
It was. Like, I'll take it, but I don't know. Like, he might have to. An afro. Half of it was an afro, and then half of it was braided. And, dude, he looked like he was insane. Like, that's the only way I could put it. Like, he looked like somebody who just came out of like a mental asylum. That's like the only way I could put it. I just don't know. Like, what was he thinking there? You know, what was he thinking? That's actually my question.
I don't. It's two sides of Kevin Holland, I guess.
The 185 side of him was the afro, and then the tied part of him was him at 170. It was just him calling it back to both eras. But I won't spend as much time on that as I just needed to mention it because it almost felt like a hallucination because like I was looking, like they were posting pictures of him on Instagram. UFC's like main events in the building. I'm like, half his hair is not the same. Like, what are you guys talking about? Main event is in the building. Do you guys see what his hair looks like? I'm like, how is nobody talking about this? And like the comments were mentioned. That's how I know I wasn't like going crazy. But like, it just felt like I was the only one. Like even on the broadcast, I'm not even sure if they mentioned it like in depth.
Probably not. No.
I don't know, man. But I just got it took away from Niccolau's win by talking about Kevin Holland's haircut. But back to Niccolau, dude. Like I did want to talk about him because he looked just incredible. Like Matt Schnell is like just a dog in there every time he fights. He's a good fighter, but that style versus Niccolau's counter style, it just was not a good one coming in. You saw this fight, right? Yeah. So I don't know. I mean, there's not really much that I could like say for Matt Schnell because Schnell was just kind of pressuring him the whole time like he does to everybody, and he just did like a bad job overall.
Yeah, that's what I want to get at. Like, for Niccolau next, I want to see someone that's still going to pressure him, but just, you know, execute it better than Matt Schnell did.
Yeah, it's tough too because Matt Schnell, like that's just his style. Like he comes to fight, and he's not. And Niccolau's style. That's why it's
That's the
frustrating.
thing. Like that, that's not always gonna It's just not always gonna play out in your favor.
Yeah, well, in this case, it really did not because Matt Schnell ate some big shots from Niccolau.
Yeah, like you can take shots and whatnot, and you may not even get like finished, but like at the end of the fight, like your hand's not raised, then what's it really matter?
I don't know if Kai Kara France has a fight booked, but maybe him versus Niccolau would be a fun one.
Oh wow, yeah, that would be huge for Niccolau.
Because
Niccolau's not a name we've really seen like in the title picture yet.
But he should be because he was ranked number 6. He just beat number 7, so he's probably gonna go over Perez and maybe Royval. He'll be in the top 5 like tomorrow. So I don't know. I think he deserves like a big fight, and Kara France like. That would be a fun one because he's going to come forward, but he's a much better, he's definitely a better striker, overall than Matt Schnell. But, I don't know.
And then, we still got to see who wins the, what is that? It's the 4th fight between Figgy and Brandon Moreno.
See, you know what's fun? I was going to get into this at the end, but maybe we can get into it now because you kind of, just mentioned Brandon Moreno. Now, Brandon Moreno is cornered by James Krause, and he's very publicly said that he is sticking by his side. And the UFC has not canceled that fight, but
oh yeah, I think we should.
I was gonna save it for the end, but you brought Moreno up, and I was gonna bring him up anyway. So I was like, I don't know, it's weird because Moreno he showed his support, and they said the ban. There's a ban on Krause. His license was taken away, and Derek Minner was cut from the promotion after this loss to I forget his opponent's name. I'm sorry, but that's bad. We were talking about how we would wait until there was more that was gonna happen, and this is really it. They haven't released details yet, really, of what exactly Krause might have done, but if they're taking his license away and not letting his fighters fight.
Oh yeah, they're going to the extreme with this.
Because you're effectively killing the guy's business by doing this. Because what pro fighter is going to want to go to a gym if you can't fight in the UFC? And I get that Krause is a great coach, and I'm sure you can learn a lot from him, even if you're not trying to be in the UFC. But it messes with Krause's business, and that's they wouldn't do that. In my opinion, I don't think they would do that unless there's really something here. And they haven't said what yet, but you're going to hear more about this. This story is really just beginning.
Yeah.
Because, MMA fighters, they've been supporting Krause through this. Let me kind of go through here because I was looking at an ESPN article about it. And let me see. Because I told you that Moreno, he already supported him. He posted a picture with him right after this came out, and he's like, I'm with you till justice is basically prevails. And I don't know, I don't know what you really do from here. He said, this is tough too because Krause, he's known for his sports betting stuff on his podcast. He has a Discord channel about it too. And he said on the MMA Hour, this is a direct quote. That was not the direct quote. The direct quote is, he said, I make more gambling on MMA than I do anything else, and added that he bets, quote, on every single card, just about every fight. So, and now in Canada, you apparently cannot bet on the UFC at this point because of all this, and it's just, I don't know, it's created a real problem because obviously a few months back we were talking about how the UFC implemented their gambling policy. Fighters can't gamble whatsoever on fights, and I remember I said at the time that I thought that was a bit it was. I had multiple feelings about it because on the one hand I agree that it it's good for the sport. It helps the integrity, and this situation with Krause clearly demonstrates that. But at the same time, I was mad about it because I was like, well, if they just paid their fighters right, they wouldn't have to bet on fights. And I don't know, man. It's
and that's why we go back to our whole conversation about the UFC, independent contracting and all that. They don't want they don't want these fighters to get paid by anything else besides the UFC, and like that's the problem. Like if you just that it wouldn't need to get to this point if they would just up the pay for everyone. But,
yeah. Well, to be fair though, like I said the first part of this, like I should say like it's still a good rule. Like in any other sport, like you're not allowed to gamble on it, and like it should be that way. Like I don't think fighters should be able to gamble on like an event that they like know about, like because it's technically they have insider information, like and in this case with
that's
Krause,
what this whole thing is.
Because you think about it, he probably like by the looks of it, I don't want to fully indict him because we haven't heard anything really from it yet, but by the looks of it, it seems like Krause knew that his fighter was injured bad enough coming in that he was probably not going to win, and it seems like that Derek Minner probably had something to do with it too, and was okay with going in there like that, knowing that he could probably make money off betting. I mean, this is just my assumption because they haven't released enough details for us to really figure it out. But, if they're going to take away Krause's license and ban all fighters from his gym from fighting, what else, like, what other conclusion can you really, like, go to? It's so weird, too, because then you got Laura Sanko, too. She trains with Krause's people at that gym. What is she just going to have to, like, ignore that to, like, be a part of the company? Like, it's so bizarre. I don't know, man. It's a very odd scenario. And there's a lot of, like, a lot of implications for the future.
This won't be the last we talk about this at all.
Well, like I said, Brandon Moreno, dude, like, what's going to happen with that? If he's not leaving Krause's side, that title fight is not going to happen. Like, it's not like might not happen, it will not happen. Like, I don't understand. Maybe the UFC is trying to figure this out, maybe trying to convince Brandon Moreno, like, look, man, like, we're trying our best here to help you, but you cannot have this guy in your corner because they haven't canceled the fight. That's the biggest thing. So that's probably going to be the next domino to fall in this scenario, unless more is released about James Krause. But I don't know. It's a bizarre scenario, and we'll definitely keep our eyes on it and keep you guys informed because we definitely find this really interesting. I mean, I don't know about you, but me personally, sports business is just interesting in all sports, not just MMA.
Yeah. And
in this particular case, like, I'm really intrigued to see what happens. And, it's unfortunate, but it is what it is at the end of the day. Mm-hmm. But we'll get back into some other fights on the card. For UFC Orlando, Sergey Pavlovich, dude, he's the real deal.
Yeah, he is.
Like, he should be propelled into like the title picture if he's not in there already. I mean, like, he just knocked out Tai Tuivasa in under a minute, and you could argue that Tai Tuivasa's game plan was not the best. when you eat a bomb from a guy like Sergey Pavlovich, I'm not so sure the best case like scenario coming back is to just swing for the fences. I mean, we know that that's what Tai Tuivasa is going to do, and we're kind of talking about it with Kevin Holland. He's not the greatest fight IQ, that's for sure, but
he's just a brawler from Sydney.
Yeah, dude. I mean, I'm a fan of Tai Tuivasa, even despite this. I mean, he's one of those guys you can't expect him to win every fight if he's going to go out there and fight like that. And Sergey Pavlovich, I mean, he's got just crazy
huge prospect. Like he definitely fully thrusted his name into that title picture now. Like that's exactly how you do it.
You could say contender at this point.
Mm-hmm.
Honestly, I don't know. Let's see where he's at in the rankings because he did beat Derek Lewis too, if you remember that. That was just because the stoppage was all weird. But
then Derek Lewis's last fight didn't even happen. So
yeah, that was weird too.
Yeah,
you're right. Pavlovich is number 5, by the way. Tuivasa was number 4, so I would imagine they're probably just going to swap places. Yeah. So, because I don't think you could put Pavlovich over Curtis Blades, because Curtis Blades hasn't really lost.
No, yeah.
So, he's a legit contender. Like, I think he's graduated from the prospect school, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Because when you're in the top, beating people in the top 5, you're in the title picture, no matter what anybody really says. It's just a matter of how well the UFC promotes him going forward. And the heavyweight division is in a weird spot right now, too, because we're waiting on Ngannou's updates, like, with his health. It seems like they're talking about John Jones in March, but we've talked about how little that kind of matters because they've talked about John Jones in September, December, July, March of this year, March of last year. Like, the dude hasn't fought since before like the pandemic. So until I see it officially booked, I'm just gonna like let it play out.
Yeah.
So I don't know. We're
Yeah.
gonna see what happens with the heavyweight rankings, but oh my goodness, dude. Speaking of just killers in their divisions, Roman Dolidze, he's improving just like
crazy. How about that performance?
Calf slicer into a TKO finish. Doesn't get much scarier than that. And like I remember when we were talking about him back in like maybe like a year or two ago, just we would talk about how he just needed to just take more risks. And Bisping talked about it. He said multiple times that, Bisping's commentary in one of his fights talking about how he needed to take more chances is why he's adapted his fighting style a little bit. And beating a guy like Jack Hermansson on the ground, just says a lot about him. And his grappling is incredible. And I don't know, like, what do you think of Roman Dolidze? Because I think he's one, like, we've mentioned with Cheeto how like there's certain fighters who just improve so much fight to fight. He's kind of like one of those guys for me.
I think he's just a guy that just takes a little bit to get started. Because even this fight, like the first round, it looked so far like, all right, Hermansson's controlling this. It looks like Hermansson like has this fight where he wants it, and then in the second round, it's like a switch just flipped for Dolidze, and he just like the jiu-jitsu is just like incredible, like crazy to do it to Jack Hermansson too, like
he's a tough guy, and that's number 8 in the world right now. I mean, because the rankings, for those of you guys who don't know, the UFC rankings, they come out every Tuesday. So obviously we record these on Mondays.
Yeah. So with that being said, I think Dolidze is just a guy you got to put away early. Like, you got to put in a precarious position, like from the jump as soon as possible, because
very true.
once he gets like this, I guess, like, signal on you and like how you want to dictate the fight, like that's when he flips the switch and then turns it into his favor.
He's gonna be in the top 10 after this because, like I said, Hermansson's number 8. He's unranked, but not anymore. That's for sure. So we'll see who they put him up against next, because middleweight kind of has like a lot of fights booked right now. Because Cannonier obviously is fighting Strickland,
and then obviously the champion turnover. So
Darren
there's
Till
a lot
has
going on with middleweight. But hey, like, absolute hats off to Dolidze to get his name in there with all this turmoil and stuff going on within the division, because there's a lot of change happening right now in middleweight. Like, you just had one of the longest reigns ever just end. So like, there's a lot to figure out. He
called out Khamzat, and I'm like, I like Roman Dolidze, but I do not think that fight would go well for him.
You gotta respect it, but it's
smart.
If anything, it would be a Khamzat thing. He'll just scoff at it and just be like, I want title.
Yeah, probably.
Give me Pihera. I smash Pihera.
Yeah, dude. I don't know, man. Khamzat's a weird scenario to me. I hope they don't put him in a title fight immediately.
Yeah, me neither.
He does not deserve that. After what he pulled at UFC 279.
Because the thing is, like, I think he would actually not maybe destroy Pieta, but
Khamzat. I don't love.
I don't like that. So
because Pieta's definitely a good grappler, but Khamzat's dangerous. But then again, Pieta's a really big guy. Like, we'd be lucky to see that dude at middleweight for another 2 years, because he's huge for that division. I mean, even Glover says it, they're gonna move up to 205. It's a matter of when, not if. So we'll see what happens when he does that, because I think Pieta gives those guys problems too, to be honest. But anyway, there's a bunch of other fights that we could really get into. I mean, Eric Anders had a really good performance I kind of wanted to talk about. It was pretty just one-sided from the jump, if you ask me, because Daukaus was clearly going for the takedown. Very predictable.
Oh, yeah.
Very predictable. And Eric Anders is just one of those guys who, he's he'll win some and lose some, but he's like a really good veteran, and he's got good wrestling, heavy hands. And if you don't come in there on your game, you're going to lose.
You can't be that. Someone that's, like you said, the veteran presence, whatnot. Like, Anders just had to answer for everything that was being given him. And then Daukaus just didn't stand a chance on the feet.
Yeah, he was just eating shots every time he came in. And, like, the takedowns were so predictable. And Anders was landing shots as he was coming in. That's what pretty much ended the fight. And, yeah, just a good win by Eryk Anders. I felt like we just had to, like, mention it at least. The prelims, there were so many different fights on the prelims that we could get into. And like I said, like if we talked about every single one of them, I think we'd be here for like hours. But, Phil Rowe, obviously TKO'd Niccolau Price. That was a fun fight. Angela Hill and Michael Johnson got some good wins. I like that. Seems like every Clay Guida fight is just a fucking dog fight at this point.
Oh, I love that guy, dude.
Yeah, same thing with Darren Elkins, too. In, like, Clay Guida won his fight versus Scott Holtzman, and, Scott Holtzman retired. He's a pretty good fighter, good career to him, fought some guys. And I thought it was kind of shitty that the UFC broadcast didn't give him his time, even though he lost, like, Holtzman, because he retired, and, like, he did it, like, sucks, because he's been in the company for a bit. Like, he deserved like a little moment, you know what I'm saying? Like, I get that he's on the prelims, he lost.
Yeah, that's messed up.
Yeah, I don't know. I get that. I feel like they play the same commercials 1,000 times.
Yeah, it's like, what the hell? I'd much rather see, his Holtzman send off than all these commercials,
Yeah, I'm like, I literally have to hear T-Mobile commercials like 958 times every single UFC
Like, I get you have a very large roster, but these are things that you should be aware of. Like a guy that's been, part of your company for a while now.
Yeah, and it was definitely packed because I think they had 14 fights on this card, which is definitely a lot.
Who he's fighting, who he lost to too, and Clay Guida, like
it's not like
another
he lost
guy,
to some bum,
another guy that we as fans like can appreciate a whole lot. Like come on, right?
Yeah. I don't know. I thought that was handled a little crappy. Yeah. But speaking like I said of dog fights though, Jonathan Pearce versus Darren Elkins, and I think I texted you this like while it was happening because I was hyped watching the prelims, and he goes, I was just thinking like, what's a Darren Elkins fight without just all blood spilling from that guy's face? Yeah. Like I remember I reposted like the picture of him that the UFC posted like on my actual story, like just my personal one, because I was like, I love this sport, man. I really do, because Darren Elkins is just crazy. Dan Miragliotta took Pearce off of him. I think it was in round 3. And they go up to the doctor. Darren Elkins is drenched in blood, and the cut is like it's not a crappy spot, but it's just so much blood that it's definitely getting into his eyes. And the doctor, like, do you want to continue to fight? He's like, fuck yeah, I do. He's like, what?
Yeah, all this blood and sweat going to your eyes. Like, oh my god, dude, I can't even imagine.
Darren Elkins is just crazy. Like, his nickname is so good that it's tattooed on his chest. The Damage. And he took some damage in that fight. Because Jonathan Pearce, dude, he's really good. Like, that's a prospect in the featherweight division that we need to keep our eyes on. Because Darren Elkins, we're talking about how he takes shots and stuff, but he's a really good wrestler. He's got good grappling, and Jonathan Pearce was able to beat him in his domain. And I think he deserves a lot of credit for that. And, we'll be looking for him. So,
yeah.
Just respect to this card had so many like just favorites, like fan favorites on it.
Yeah, this was really well put together, and that's why like we will beat this horse until it is beyond dead. That you can do this for just about every card.
They just don't.
Exactly.
It's that simple. They just don't. They want the prelims to be as stacked as because the prelims were awesome. Like Angela Hill, Michael Johnson, Clay Guida, Jonathan Pearce, Darren Elkins, Phil Rowe, Niccolau Price. Like all these people. That's a better main card than like all the fight nights through like August and October. So like, I don't get it. Like they used to be so much more fun, and this one was awesome. Like I agree with you that we should talk about this anytime it needs to be mentioned, but I feel bad talking about it on this card because this one they did a great job. Like, I can't shit on them when they just put on an amazing card.
Yeah, and that's why, you just saw we'll give them as much praise as we need to when they do it, and then call them out when they don't.
Yeah, man. And, like, next week's card is pretty good, too. because there's UFC 282.
Yeah.
And the title fight was obviously very affected by Yuri's injury, and then Glover obviously didn't want to take the fight versus Magomed Ankalaev on short notice.
Yeah.
So now we're here with Magomed Ankalaev versus Jan Blachowicz for the light heavyweight title, which is very just...
Yeah.
I mean, it's interesting, that's for sure.
How about the opportunity for Jan Blachowicz to become a champion once again, and just like this decade, like that would be pretty I think that would be pretty phenomenal. So
he's got an uphill battle.
Yeah,
that's for sure. I don't know if there's odds out for this fight yet. Maybe I should look it up to see if they have any odds. But I think that Blachowicz, he's a good boxer, but I just don't like anybody's chances really against Ankalaev, maybe besides Yuri. So I don't know. Let's see what these fight odds are looking like.
I think the UFC realizes this too, because I don't really think it's a secret that this Ankalaev is a guy they're very high on. They want to see just dominate. So
yeah. And the odds, by the way, on this is DraftKings. Ankalaev's a minus 245 favorite, and Jan Blachowicz is a plus 205 underdog. And I think it's fair. I think you could even argue that Ankalaev could be even bigger of a favorite, but I think that Jan has a chance. They talk about that legendary Polish power for a reason, dude. It's legit. He's knocked out legends with that power, and he could definitely crack. So I don't know. It's an interesting one. But then, from there, too, there's the Paddy Pimblett fight. That's going to be fun. Robbie Lawler versus Santiago Ponzinibbio. That's going to be a war. Then you got, what's the other one that I was looking for? It was here, let me actually just go back on this. Darren, I was just talking about it. Darren Till versus Dricus Duplessis.
Darren Till's return.
Yeah, man. It'll be fun to see Darren Till back, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But... even the early prelims are fun, the first ones of the night. We got Alexander Hernandez versus Billy Q. OSP is fighting. Let's see who else. Raul Rosas Jr. from the Contender Series, 17-year-old who's in the UFC. His debut is upon us. He is a minus 230 favorite on DraftKings.
Oh my god.
He's undefeated and he's facing a guy who's 10-6.
It's just so. It's dude, I can bet on a minor. And win serious money off of it.
Yeah, that's a valid point.
That's crazy.
I'm gonna have to drop some money on this UFC card, dude. I had a parlay yesterday on the NFL, and I want Yuri, or not Yuri, but Glover Teixeira. I'm sure he's still in fight shape, even though he is obviously not participating in this weekend's card.
Yeah,
I'm gonna need him to go to Los Angeles and beat up Brandon Staley.
Oh,
so
Chargers. Bet.
Okay, well, listen here. So I had a parlay, and if the Chargers would have just won, I would have won. I would have won it. So it was all money line: Ravens, Giants, Seahawks, Chargers, and Cowboys, and the Giants tied. Obviously,
yeah. So
that scared me, but it voided it.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say.
But then. Obviously, the Seahawks won, the Ravens won, and both of those were in the fourth quarter. So, you can imagine where I was at. And, then the Chargers were up versus the Raiders, and there's one particular fourth down try that I am going to reference. It was 4th and 5, and I'm pretty sure they were in their own territory. And they obviously did not convert, and the Raiders scored a touchdown.
Obviously, it doesn't matter now, the game happens over, but just for the future, there's still football left to be played. Maybe not bet as much on a guy who coaches like he's playing Madden.
You know what's funny? I did think about that,
That's exactly what Brandon Staley does.
That was the one I was nervous about, too. Not even particularly because of that, just because of the defense issues. But at the same time, I was like, that's the reason why I won't ever bet on a Patriots game, because I don't know what Bill Belichick is going to pull out of his ass.
No, exactly.
Maybe I should start thinking about that way towards the Chargers, because if it wasn't for that, I would have won a decent amount of money. Yeah. So instead, I just lost $15. But instead, we're talking about football. We got there from fight odds. UFC 282 is happening this weekend. Bellator 289 is happening this weekend. Stotts versus Sabatello. That's a fight I'm really looking forward to in their bantamweight division. And, next week we'll be back to talk about all that. So, big Bellator card, big UFC card. Maybe some news with James Krause if it comes up. But, we'll see. We'll see you guys next week.
See ya.